Welcome to the Half-Blood Report.
Here we discuss Percy Jackson news, interviews, and all things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host. So, Samuel, what were you doing Riordan-related this week?
Skip me, because I was too tired and I didn't do anything. I did research for the
Yeah.
episode, I just didn't really do a lot of other stuff. So...
Yeah, I guess this week, same for me. I didn't do many things Riordan-related specifically. I did a lot of podcasting stuff, which we'll talk about maybe a bit, not really. But I attended a conference called We Are Diverse Podcasters, and that was pretty cool. I learned a bunch of stuff and met some cool people. But that's not exactly Riordan related, but it's the best thing I got.
I mean, I know you were out with your sword and stuff. I saw that on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
so,
I was technically. I was swinging it.
Yeah, so let's jump into the Demigod news.
Yeah, so this week, Rick Riordan released an interview between Rick Riordan and Taylor K. Mejia. Taylor. Is it Taylor?
Yeah, it's Taylor.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I've been saying Taylor since the beginning of time. So, apologies. Taylor K. Mejia. And, as is customary with all the Rick Riordan Presents authors, Rick kind of does an interview with them in which they chat about something. About their upcoming book and what happens in it and the culture behind it. Unfortunately, due to Corona, they were not able to have this in-person interview, so it was more like an interview transcript, which
Yeah,
I
I didn't think of that. I was really wondering. It was because usually they do a filmed interview. Why didn't they do one of those this time? And then Corona. I didn't think of that. I was just why didn't they do it? But still, I think they could have probably recorded a Zoom call or something.
Yeah, I think they could have done something a bit better. I mean, it was a good interview in that it's going to give us a lot of stuff to do for last predictions next week. But I don't know. It just didn't feel as good. And I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but in-person interviews are just so much better than over the phone interviews and stuff.
They did what they could considering what's going on right now. I wouldn't want them to risk their safety and take a plane to just record an interview.
Yeah, that doesn't sound smart.
A Zoom call would have been cool, but at the same time, I'm not cool with showing my face to anyone right now, so that's probably the same with them. So, yeah.
Wait, but weren't they just on a D&D stream?
Well, if you watch the D&D stream, you could have said that's what you did Riordan related this week, Diego, so you're not allowed to talk about it.
Wait, was it this week?
It was Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I guess technically this week since we recorded on Friday.
Silly Diego.
Sorry about that. I completely forgot. I thought it was last week. But yeah, regardless of whether it was maybe the perfect interview or not, I definitely go check it out because it has some pretty good little hint info about the next book and about what's going to happen in Paula Santiago.
Yeah, I would recommend reading it. It seems pretty cool. Next up, we got a little bit more information. Not a lot, I would say. Just a teensy bit more information about The Last Fallen Star. I don't know if we've actually talked about it on the podcast before. I've been aware about it and known of it. I just don't know if we've actually mentioned it on the podcast. But Last Fallen Star, Korean mythology by Gracie Kim. We got a little mini description about it. Rick Riordan presents looks to the night sky for The Last Fallen Star by Gracie Kim, spotlighting an adopted Korean American girl who discovers her heritage and her magic on a perilous journey to save her witch clan family. And Gracie Kim actually said of it, Korean American witches in LA, forbidden magic, and enchanted boba teas. Coming to you in spring 2021.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description if you ask me. I was sold on the Korean witches in LA.
Dude, LA sucks. I was super excited for this book, and then it was LA, and I was teeny bit less excited because
I think Samuel just has a beef with LA.
I mean, every book should be set in New York. That would just make everything better, right?
I mean, that's true. No, New York is just the best city, so every book should be in New York.
I mean, I think everything should just be in New York.
Yeah, right? Everything. Just the entire world should be in New York. It should just like
Wow.
get the entire world and shrink it and put all the good places in the world in New York and then put all the bad places in New Jersey. And then we'd be fine.
Yeah, we can go back
Sorry,
to Pangea, except it's just shaped as New York and New Jersey.
yeah, it's New York and New Jersey. I'm sorry for everybody who lives in New Jersey. We are
I'm
just
sorry
joking.
for everyone who lives anywhere than in New York.
Samuel, let's not start a beef with the world right now, okay?
Okay.
No, but yeah,
No,
we
we love all our listeners, even the ones who don't live in New York. We love you all. Thank you for listening. I'm just saying, New York. Yeah, that was it. There, nothing more needs to be said other than New York.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, listeners. I think Samuel's had a bit too much to drink this morning.
What? I didn't. That's not. That came out wrong. I'm a minor.
I meant coffee.
I haven't drank coffee in like 7 months.
Oh
No, like a
dang,
year. I haven't
that's a
drank coffee in like
while.
a year.
I don't
Yeah.
drink coffee. That's
Then
just
why'd
not
you think
me.
I drink coffee?
I don't know. Haven't we been over this before on the podcast? I feel like we
Yeah, you
definitely
just
had an
assume that
argument
I
about
drink
coffee.
coffee when I don't drink coffee. This
I
is
don't know.
like
You
so
seem like the kind
stupid.
of person who would drink coffee.
You seem like the person who's drank coffee like every hour of the day because you're so energetic.
No, no, no. The coffee is in my veins. I don't drink it. It's just there.
Actually, Diego is the source for the world's coffee. They just like take a bit of his blood every day and then they
No,
dilute it
that's so
into all the
nasty. Oh
world.
my god.
No, they just take his blood and they dilute it into all the world's coffee, and it gets so diluted in all the world's coffee, but it still provides that energy you get in your venti lattes or whatever. Because that's how much coffee is in just
I'm
in Diego's
sorry for all
blood
the listeners
naturally.
who are currently drinking coffee right now.
Yeah, that very faint taste of saltiness, that's the iron in his blood.
Oh my god, Sam, you're so bad. Stop. Further on, continuing with the Demigod news, getting away from this coffee rant. On the Barnes& and Noble's YouTube channel, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Carlos will be talking to Rick Riordan about what? I'm not really sure. Samuel, you want to shine some light on that?
Basically, Silent Gabby is become the monthly young readers pick. I don't know. Monthly young readers pick for Barnes and Nobles. I didn't know they had a monthly young readers pick. That just shows how sad Barnes and Nobles is. I love you, Barnes and Nobles. Independent bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, and then Amazon at the very bottom.
At the
Yeah,
very,
so
very bottom.
but I feel like Barnes and Nobles is stuck in that middle child spot where everyone just forgets about them because it's become so polarized between independent bookstores and Amazon, and Barnes and Nobles is just struggling to exist.
Well, Barnes& and Noble's been struggling to exist for like 10 years.
Well, yeah, that's because I'm just saying like they're the middle child that like everyone is just ignoring.
They just completely forget about them.
Yeah. So they had a monthly young readers pick. It was Sally and Gabby. And they're gonna have a virtual event where Rick Riordan and Carlos Hernandez talk Sally and Gabby on the Barnes and Noble's YouTube channel. I guess they're gonna talk about it's the monthly young readers pick. I don't know. Barnes and Nobles hasn't been very clear. I think they're just hoping people are gonna watch because Rick Riordan's there, which is true. And Carlos Hernandez. I'm just saying like Rick Riordan, slightly more famous than Carlos,
Just slightly. But
just
Carlos is
slightly.
like 85 times more funny, so I think we got to give it to
Oh,
Carlos on this
darn.
one.
Darn. Well, do you mean like he makes good jokes in conversation or good jokes in writing? Because I think in
I
writing
mean,
they're
he does
tied.
both. He does
Okay,
both. I feel like, I don't know, when I watched the live stream, Rick said like 8 words, and Carlos was like talking the whole time and saying funny jokes like every other second.
that's true. I'm just saying like if you look at their books, they're pretty much equally funny. So
Yeah, I guess. It's different kind of humor.
that's for sure. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. We were talking about like how New York's the best place in the world, and we were talking about like coffee.
We got to figure out what's up. Why are we so off today?
Well, because I haven't had coffee in a year, that's why. So
Oh my
disgusting with all the
god,
blood of
Samuel.
yours that's in it. So, think it's time to consult the oracle.
Yeah, the section in which we look at the source mythology to make predictions on a future Rick Riordan or Rick Riordan Presents book.
And I really, really, really wish I could tell you the name of the book we did research on this week, but we can't tell you the name of that book.
Yeah, instead of researching a specific book, we decided to research on Irish mythology because that's what Rick's next series is going to be about. And we said we said last episode that it was in the plan, and we were not lying because we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we could just assume that that series name is going to be the Keen Chronicles, right?
I mean, that's the last time we talked about it, and Keen Chronicles sounded pretty good.
Yeah, it's like Mallory Keene, the Keen Chronicles. Yeah, I like that. It's a
It's
yeah,
a pretty good name. I mean, of
yeah.
course, Rick's not going to call it that, but if he did, I would
No,
die.
no, he's already called it that, and Mallory Keene is also going to wear lots of keens the whole series.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've practically confirmed that.
Are keens
Wait,
like still a thing, or do people wear Crocs now?
oh, I don't know what a keen is. What's a
You don't
keen?
know what a keen?
I
Oh
thought you were
my
talking
gosh,
about like her wearing like the dead skin of her relatives or something.
Diego, how is that your conclusion instead of I don't know what keens is?
Okay, fine. I have no idea what keens is, and I just tried to nod along and pretend that I did.
Wow. Oh, this is a whole new level. Diego, tell me about something Irish related, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically, do you want to go through I did research on the Tane, which is one of the famous Irish mythology works known as the Irish Iliad, and I kind of did research on that. So I'll give you a quick plot overview of what happens in the book. So there's a lady named Meb who queen actually who wants power over her husband the king, but he has a better bull, more lean bull, a more pretty bull, like a cooler bull basically. So she raises her armies to go after an even better mythical bull that is held by these other armies, right? And she is told by a soothsayer on the way that she will have bad fortune. When she arrives there, actually, the opposite of bad fortune happens. Good fortune happens, and a curse makes the enemy army experience labor pains and unable to fight. However, one guy is exempt, right? And his name is Cuchulainn, or known as Chulainn. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. Basically, what this guy does is he's like a crazy warrior, and he challenges each individual soldier in the army to a solo duel to the death, right? So he challenges the first guy, and the rest of the army kind of sits around and watches, and he kills the first guy, right? So the rest of the army starts charging at him, and then he challenges another guy. So the army stops. They watch him kill the next guy, and he kind of goes on like that. For in some versions, it's like, and he fights many powerful and crazy champions from the other army, including his kind of half brother, whom he is kind of fighting, and he's getting really tired because he's been fighting for a long time. And at around this point, the curse lifts from the rest of his army, and his army kind of comes over and helps him like push back the retreating army. And some versions of the story say that the Med lady actually gets her period right as her army is being attacked. So maybe that was the bad luck. And she kind of has to like
Wait, so the
retreat.
bad luck wasn't that her army experienced labor pains?
No, no, no. The enemy army experienced labor pains.
So why didn't Cuchulainn get help from his army like until the end?
Oh, because his army was experiencing labor pains.
Wait, so is Cuchulainn the enemy or the good guy?
No, no. Cuchulainn is the bad guy.
Like, he sounds so cool.
I know he's cool, but like in this story, he's not the bad guy because he's bad. He's just the enemy, right? Because we're following the story from the perspective of the Med lady.
So this is like an Iron Man in Civil War kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he's kind of fighting off everybody while his army is like in the back experiencing labor pains and falling over. Right. So the Med lady gets her period, and she's unable to like kind of fight or anything, and she's kind of like dragged off the field by her own soldiers in a hasty retreat, right? So eventually,
You just
Cuchulainn
know
is
that a guy made this story, right? It's
yeah,
just
obviously,
like,
obviously, clearly, very, very clearly. Um,
and when I get into to more when I get into more of some of my myths, there's obviously going to be lots more sexism, so that's fun.
yeah, exactly. But basically, she retreats, and Cuchulainn wins the day. But in her hasty retreat, her army manages to acquire the mythical bull that they were there for. So it's really funny because you're not really sure who to cheer for because, like, you kind of start cheering for the med lady to like, because her husband's being abusive and stuff, and he has the better bull, and that's kind of how like the tradition works. So he gets to have more power over her. And she's like this crazy warrior lady, so she raises her armies and goes in search of the bull, and then you're rooting for Cuchulainn to kind of defeat the entire enemy army. Um, and then you're kind of happy when he wins. And then later you find out as Med is retreating, she actually gets her hands on this bull. She goes back to her kingdom, and there she kind of faces off her bull against her husband's bull. And her bull just kind of destroys her husband's bull. So therefore, she has more power over her husband. But sadly, the mythical bull does die from injuries. And this is kind of like the end of the story in which Med gets what she wants. Cuchulainn is a hero in his army, and everybody kind of lives happily ever after until the next stories involving these characters.
Wow. I do not know what's the point of that story? Like, who wins? Everybody?
Yeah, it's kind of like everybody wins except for like I guess the army who had labor pains, but they ended up winning in the end too.
What about all those guys who got killed?
Oh, I guess they lose. Yeah, all the guys that Cuchulainn killed lose. So, yeah, I guess. It's a
Jeez.
very strange story.
So, you want to know more about Cuchulainn's dad?
I do. Indeed.
Okay.
Except I should probably explain who Cuchulainn is. So Cuchulainn is an Irish demigod who was the son of the Irish god Lug.
So basically, Lug, dad of Ku Holland. He has a lot of story. Basically, the main thing is he kills his granddad. It's kind of similar to the story of Perseus, where his granddad gets like a prophecy that his grandson is going to kill him. So then he traps his daughter in a tower. Surprise, she manages to have babies. Not with a god, with like someone he betrays. Except in other stories, they're like both his parents are kind of like gods. And so then Lug, he kind of becomes like the Hercules of Irish myths, and that he's like this big, strong guy who's everywhere important and like does all the important stuff in the mythology. Basically, he goes up to this like group. He's also like, I wish I could say he's a jack of all trades, master of none, but he's more of like a jack of all trades, master of all. Like, let me just read you this thing about like this is straight from Wikipedia, okay? So, mhm. A member of the Tuatha De Danann, Lug is portrayed as a warrior, a king, a master craftsman, and a savior. He is associated with skill and mastery in multiple disciplines, including the arts. He is also associated with oaths, truth, and the law, and therefore with rightful kingship. Lug is linked with the Harvest Festival, which bears his name. And it goes on and on about his skill, his spirit. He's like he's basically the master of everything. All right. Um, it's I don't know. He's like the Superman in that he's good at everything and it's overpowered. But basically, he wants to just join this super cool club called the Tuatha De Danann, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. Tuatha De Danann, okay. And basically, he joins this. He wants to join this cool club, and so he goes up, and the doors guy's like, "What can you give to the king?" He's like, "I'm a master craftsman," and the guy's like, "We already have a master craftsman. Go away." And he comes back, and he's like, "I'm a great blacksmith," and the guy's like, "Go away." And he's like, "I'm great at the arts," and he's like, "We already have one of those. Go away." He's like, "I'm a great warrior." He's like, "We already have one of those. Go away." Repeat that for like 20 more times, right? And then he finally comes back. He's like, okay, I know you got all these masters, right? but can you got any of do you have any people in there who are master of all those things simultaneously? And the doorkeeper's like, yeah, we don't. Come inside. And so he joins this cool club. And then he finds out that the cool club is like gonna get like kicked out by their rivals. And so then he's like, no. And then they have like a bunch of wars against their rivals. And he does a bunch of other things. And then he kills his granddad because his granddad was evil.
Yeah, completing the final prophecy arc.
You can tell
Um,
I did very thorough research on this guy. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Basically, big, strong men who are good at everything are just not the most interesting things in the world, you know?
I can agree with that. But
Hmm.
yeah, so he is the father of Cuchulainn, and Cuchulainn is the Irish demigod, and his name comes from a story in which he accidentally kills the guard hound of a king, right? And his name is actually his original name was, I forget exactly what. I think his original name was one sec, let me verify that. His original name was Setanta, but after he killed this hound, he was renamed Cuchulainn, which means Cullen's hound, right? Because the story kind of goes, he kills the hound and then he realizes it's the king's hound. He apologizes to the king, promises to raise the next hound and be the hound until the next hound is ready to like become the guard hound. So he kind of like becomes Cullen the king, his hound.
Okay, so we're talking about love. We're talking about Cuchu Lane. Do you want to hear about a much cooler dude?
Okay, hit it.
Like, this guy is super cool, okay? I'm really
Okay,
enjoying this. He is so cool, all right? Get up.
okay.
Can we get a drum roll for how cool this guy is? That's not a drum
Edit
roll.
that
You're just
in.
clapping. No,
Edit
man.
that in, dude.
We gotta go like Theon McCool.
Is that his actual name?
Yes, like there are multiple pronunciations, but that is one of the pronunciations. Theon McCool. That was the
That's
whole joke
that's pretty
beforehand that
cool.
only I got. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so let's get into some plot analysis, which I did.
You didn't
Um,
really tell me anything about Theon McCool. I just said his name.
oh, okay. Who is
You
he?
dumb butt. What did you think I was just wanted to say his name and then leave it at that? People don't
Yeah,
even know who
kind of.
he is, and people are listening to this podcast and like, what? Okay. So basically, Theon McCool. Guess what his dad's name was?
Lug.
No, Lug didn't. He has nothing to do with boring Lug. Okay, come on, guess a name. Guess a name.
Um, Cool McCool.
Close enough. His dad's name was just cool. Fine McCool. The cool relates to his father. So his dad's name is just cool.
Ryan McCool, son of Cool.
Well, the Mick Cool part is the part that means son of cool. But yeah, basically his dad is this guy named Cool, and his dad falls in love with this druid. Bad thing. He goes to the druid's dad and he's like, "Hey, can I get your daughter's hand in marriage?" And the dad is like this evil wizard who suspects Cool is gonna kill him, and he's like, "No." The story doesn't really care about the druid's actual opinion, but basically, Cool kidnaps her. So that wasn't a very cool thing to do. Uh, yeah, sorry about that. Basically, Cool kidnaps her. Big war. Actually, kind of similar to the Iliad. Lots of parallels to Greek mythology, as we're finding in Irish mythology. Yeah, basically, Cool kidnaps the druid. Big war. But basically, when Wizard Dad gets her back, she's pregnant with Cool's son, and he's like, "Get out of here! Get out of here! You're having a son with a guy I don't like." And he's like, "Actually, I'm not only disowning you, I'm gonna burn you, like burn you dead with fire."
Oh
And
damn.
then
Okay.
and so
All right, this story
so
just
then
got very exciting.
the High King walks in, like the High King of the land walks in. He's like, "Yo, yo, yo, you can disown your daughter, but like burning people to death, not cool." And the wizard's like, "Damn it." So he's not allowed to burn his daughter. He just disowns her. She's now under the king's protection. She gives birth to this son, cool son, right? And then she's very traumatized, so she doesn't want to raise him herself, so she gives it to her sister, who is also a druid, and her sister kind of raises it with her bestie, who is like a fighter.
Raises it.
Raises cool's son. It's a baby, okay? Listen. So, and basically, he gets raised up with this druid mom and this fighter mom. The myths are kind of vague about their relationship, so if you want to think of it as like this, mythological Irish lesbian couple, you do that. It might be. That's actually a pretty cool interpretation, if I do say so myself. So, anyways, they're raising this guy, cool son. He has like a wacky childhood, like every mythological character has. Like Hermes stealing Apollo's cows or Hercules fighting snakes. He has a wacky childhood. He grows up and he's like, "Yo, I want to work for a king." And so he goes to all like these kings, and he's like, "Can I work for you?" And then basically, Cool was like this great hero. So a lot of people obviously would want to kill Cool's son because then they would like get all this street cred as being the guy who killed Cool's son, right? So then he'll go up to a king. He's like, "I want to work for you," and then like a day later, after he's like working, the king will be like, "Hey, aren't you the son of that guy Cool?" And he's like, "Yeah." And the king's like, "Get out of here! People are gonna come all over the place to just try to kill you." And so like, darn it. And so he keeps going around to different kings. Eventually, he wants to join this cool club, not the same cool club as Lug wanted to join, another cool club of like fighters, and he wants to join. And they're like, "No, you're Cool's son." And the leader of the group is actually the guy who ended up killing Cool. And so he's like, "Darn." He's like, "Well, what if I can prove myself?" And they're like, "Okay." So there's this one uh, bad guy who comes like every 100 years and destroys like Irish towns and whatever. He comes very soon. Cool Cool's son has a big fight with him. Cool's son beats him, and they're like, "Okay, fine, we'll let you into this club." So he joins it, right? And then he goes around, doing adventures. He meets this one guy who's just been sitting there fishing for like years, trying to catch the salmon of wisdom. It's like basically this fish that if you catch, you get super super wise. Coincidentally, right as Cool gets there, he like catches the fish, and then he needs to go grab herbs or something, so he starts cooking it, and he's like, "Yo, you just leave it here, right?" And then it like starts to fall or something, I think, and then he quickly touches it and he burns himself, but he gets a little bit of the oil that was on the salmon on his thumb. So then he sucks his thumb, and then he gets like pretty wise because that counts as consuming the salmon. And then when the guy gets back, he's like, "Darn it! Well, have the rest of it." And he eats the whole salmon, and he becomes super wise. Except he can only access that wiseness by sucking his thumb. So yeah,
If Rick doesn't put that in the Irish mythology series, I don't know what he will.
yeah. So thumb sucking is definitely gonna come into play. I just can't wait for that joke, that gag.
Thumb sucking is gonna be a thing. All right. So we've kind of gone over
Wait,
some cool character. Oh, okay. You want to do
and I
monsters?
just wanted to no, I just wanted to quickly say about Fine McCool because I've been calling him Cool Son, because the way there are multiple. Some say that basically he got his name, that he kind of just started going around saying his name like as Fine or something. But there's another story where it's like his hair started growing in early as white, so they called him Blondie basically, which is what Fine means. And I like that because it's like Clint Eastwood in Oh yeah, no. So he is Blondie. Yeah, he is Blondie in A Good, Bad, Ugly. So I like that. I don't know. He gets different names. I think in one of them he's just called Johnny. In that trilogy he gets different names at each movie, but he's supposed to be the same character, which is kind of weird. Or he might be a different character. It's never specifically stated. So weird.
But yeah, so that's basically like fine McCool, and we went over Cuckoo Lane, and then just quickly we went over Lug as well, and then quickly I'm just gonna go over Med. So Med is the queen of Connaught, and she is believed to be the incarnation of the sovereignty goddess. And she's most well known for starting the Tane by setting out to capture the prize bowl. And basically, she married many kings, has many lovers, but is eventually killed by her nephew, whose mother she had killed in pregnancy, and then a post-mortem cesarean section uh brought her nephew out, and her nephew kind of went out for blood afterwards.
See, this is the thing about mythology. They're too lazy to introduce new characters, so they just have one family do weird things to each other for like ever.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like
But now
in
that we've
murdering, inbreeding, all of those fun things.
yeah, all of the fun things that are definitely illegal. But some guesses kind of just to wrap up this section. So some plot guesses. We get a modern day Cuchulainn or Finn guy. It's more probable that we get Cuchulainn because there's just more stuff about him. But the Finn guy is actually has an argument because Cuchulainn might be too famous to be the main character. You know how like Hercules, like Percy isn't named Hercules, his name is Perseus, and even though he is a famous hero, he's like a slightly less famous hero. So that might play into hand. But basically, we get modern day Cuchulainn, right? And
Well, I don't know. I think it's gonna be like a new. Don't you think it's gonna be like a new character? Like like
I mean,
Percy is
it
named
might
after
be.
Perseus, but he's his own character, right? Like,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it's just his own character and they meet this. But basically, they're not aware of what's happening. And suddenly, somehow they kill this magical person's hound dog, right? Which is the story from Cuchulainn, right? Because you know how, like, Percy does things from mythology that kind of kicks him into different things, like the Golden Fleece and stuff like that, right? So he kills the hound dog, right? And like by accident maybe like the dog is coming near him, and the dog jumps towards him, and he kind of jumps out of the way thinking the dog's gonna attack him, but then the dog like falls down and like breaks his head or something and dies, obviously by accident because Rick isn't the kind of person who would have somebody kill a dog on purpose. But basically, he kind of goes over and apologizes to the owner, and the owner's like, okay, well, I'll take you in. Maybe he's like poorer and the owner is richer. And he kind of takes him in and trains him. And maybe like that's kind of like where he lives. And then suddenly this guy disappears, right? And his job is to kind of go after the guy and find him. And as he's going through it, he's kind of like seeing the different characters and monsters that we talked about, and maybe the last thing kind of the first book climaxes with the story of the Tane, right? Or maybe not the story of the Tane, but like the battle of the Tane, in which this character, whose name we don't know yet, assumes the form of Cuchulainn, which is a demonic war demon, right? Because Cuchulainn, whenever he's fighting, he turns into a war demon, right? So he turns into a war demon and successfully fights off the army just to see this owner guy die, right? And I think that's what's going to happen in the first book.
I'm gonna say, I originally thought like it's gonna be like a mirror of the story of Cuchulainn. It's kind of silly. I still thought it was pretty silly, but then I don't think it's gonna follow the story of Cuchulainn as closely as you're kind of describing as a mini
Yeah,
plot.
maybe less.
But I will say, Cuchulainn, you know who his dad is? It's Lug. Okay, in his original interview with Ryan something. I don't know. It was a Ryan guy in Ireland on the radio station. I forget. But in his original interview, he said that one of his favorite Irish characters that he's actually doing, I think, his thesis on is Lug, right? And Cuchulainn is the son of Lug. And he said that Lug is definitely going to appear in any sort of story, right? So, maybe I think that it'd be pretty likely, considering how much Rick likes Lug, that he would end up, that the main character is going to be a demigod child of Lug, like
Yeah.
Cuchulainn.
Yes, because we and maybe like exactly or similarly to like what happens with Jason, where he's a son of Zeus and he meets Hercules, the famous demigod, also son of Zeus. Maybe that'll happen in maybe like the second book of this series, in which maybe like this son of Lug, who we don't have a name for yet, kind of bumps into Cuchulainn, another son of Lug, and they kind of exchange things, but he realizes that while Cuchulainn was somebody that it's Cuchulainn, by the way, I've been pronouncing it wrong. But while Cuchulainn has been like a giant figure in the mythos and everything, and he's kind of heard a lot about him from different gods and such, he isn't really what he expected, right? And maybe something like that. But I definitely think that stuff that we can count on is Lug, because Rick's definitely confirmed that some kind of Cuchulainn cameo, and or story of the Hound, because I definitely think the Hound killing is gonna play a part. And then we do see that
Thumb
he
sucking.
is the
Thumb
yeah,
sucking.
we're definitely gonna see thumb sucking from one character. We might meet Med in like a short place, kind of like, I'm thinking that this series is gonna be most similar to Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard.
Oh
So we
yeah, for
might get,
sure.
definitely, it's the closest one, because it's I don't know, it just definitely doesn't feel Kane Chronically. It's not going to be more than 3 books.
But
Um
Keen Chronicles.
exactly, it's going to be the Keen Chronicles, right? Uh but yeah, it's definitely going to be most similar to Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. In that it's not going to be like the 5-book series or whatever. It's just going to be 3 books. And also like the style of Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. It's kind of what I'm imagining this year. So we might see Med
Also, like, I
make a,
feel like we're gonna get like the same sort of wacky cast of characters that we got in Magnus Chase, as opposed to,
yeah,
Percy
definitely.
Jackson. They're all demigods, or like King Chronicles, they're all magicians. I feel like,
Mhm.
I mean, and that's a broad scope. Of course, there are other side characters in Percy Jackson and the other series. I'm just saying, like, I feel that the Irish series is gonna, have more sort of like a wacky cast, where like one guy sucks his thumb, the main guy's a son of Lug. Um, yeah, I don't know.
So I think we'll see how my plot overview kind of plays out. But the characters that we've
In like,
talked about,
we'll see in like 5 years.
nah, in 5 years, we'll see. But yeah, it was really interesting to research all of this different mythology in depth and learn about some cool new characters. But yeah, this is definitely like a very early prediction to everything, because we're probably not going to see it for another 2 years.
Yeah. So if Diego's wrong, he's gonna be like, hey, it was like early. I didn't know anything." And if he's right, he's gonna be like, "I'm a genius because I literally just
I'm a
plagiarized
genius.
Beltane." Yeah.
Literally a genius. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for this episode of the Half Blood Report.
You can follow the show on Twitter at Half Report. You can also find us on Instagram at The Half Blood Report, or email the show, thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com. We also have a website, thehalfbloodreport.com. We also have a Teespring with link in the description to buy our t-shirts with our logos on them, an inverted logo. And you're like, wait, what's the inverted logo look like? Well, you gotta go. You gotta go look.
Yeah, you gotta go check it out. But yeah, that said, it's time for credits. Our theme music is actually by me.
I do our editing. My co-host here is Diego, and I'm Samuel.
This is the Half Blood Report podcast, the only HBR that matters. Survive till next week.